My friend, I want you to hear this with your whole heart. You are not here by accident. You're not breathing by coincidence. The same hands that hung the stars in the heavens are holding your life together right now. Even when you can't see it, even when you can't feel it, God is working behind the scenes. The detour is part of the destiny. The waiting is part of the winning. The pain is part of the purpose. Don't give up when it gets hard. Don't stop believing when you can't see the way forward. The night may be dark, but morning always comes. The same God who brought you this far will not abandon you now. He didn't bring you through the fire just to watch you burn. He brought you through it to make you shine. Some of you tonight are standing in the middle of a storm. The waves are crashing, the winds are howling, and your boat feels like it's about to break apart. But let me remind you, when the disciples were in the storm and they thought they were going to die, Jesus came walking on the water. The very waves that threatened to drown them became the path on which their Savior walked. The storm that scared them was the stage for His glory. And the same is true for you. The storm you're facing today could be the miracle story you tell tomorrow. Maybe your marriage is falling apart. Maybe your dreams are shattered. Maybe your health is failing. Maybe you've been betrayed, abandoned, forgotten. But you are not alone. God is not finished with you. If He brought you to it, He will bring you through it. He's not just the God of beginnings. He's the God of comebacks. You see, faith isn't proven on the mountaintop. Faith is proven in the valley. When you have every reason to give up, but you keep walking. When you can't see the light, but you keep believing. That's when heaven leans close and says, "There's one of mine." I want you to imagine a seed planted deep in the ground. It's dark, it's cold, and it feels buried. But it's not buried, it's planted. And there's a difference. Being buried means it's over. Being planted means growth is coming. Right now, you may feel buried under pressure, pain, and problems. But you're not buried, you're planted. And in due season, you will rise again. The world may look at you and see failure. People may walk away when you fall. But God doesn't see your past. He sees your potential. He doesn't call you by your mistakes. He calls you by your name. And that name is written in the palm of His hand. My friend, you are stronger than you think. You are braver than you believe. And you are closer to your breakthrough than you can imagine. The devil will whisper, "It's over." But God says, "I'm not done yet." So tonight, lift your head. Wipe your tears. Straighten your shoulders. You are still standing because grace held you up. You are still breathing because mercy said, "Not yet." The story isn't finished. The author hasn't stopped writing. And when you look back one day, you'll see that every setback was a setup for a comeback. God didn't bring you this far to let you fall. He brought you here to show the world what faith looks like under fire. He brought you here so that when others see your victory, they'll know there is still a God in heaven who rescues, who restores, and who redeems. So don't give up. Don't give in. Don't lose hope, because the same power that raised Christ from the dead lives in you. And if that power couldn't be defeated by death, then neither will you. Hold on, my friend. The storm will pass. The dawn will break. And when it does, you'll stand stronger, wiser, and more radiant than ever before. Because God didn't bring you here to let you fall. He brought you here to make you rise. God never leads you into a place to abandon you. Every trial has purpose. You see, life has a way of taking us through valleys we never expected to walk through. We start with dreams in our hearts, plans in our minds, and faith in our steps. But somewhere along the way, things fall apart. The doors we prayed for stay shut. The people we counted on walk away. The things we worked so hard for crumble in our hands. And in those moments, when the night feels long and heaven feels silent, we start to wonder if God has forgotten us. But the truth is, He hasn't. He never will. God never brings you to a place just to leave you there. When God led the Israelites out of Egypt, they thought freedom would be easy. They thought the promised land was just over the next hill. But what did God do? He led them straight into the wilderness. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't punishment. It was preparation. Because before He could take them to the land flowing with milk and honey, He had to teach them how to trust Him in the desert. He had to show them that their faith couldn't depend on comfort, but on His presence. And that's the same with us. Before God elevates you, He will establish you. Before He gives you the blessing, He will build your faith to handle it. Some of you are walking through that wilderness right now. You're in a season where nothing seems to make sense. You pray, but it feels like your words fall flat. You work hard, but doors stay closed. You try to hold on, but everything around you seems to be slipping away. You ask, why would God lead me here if He knew it would hurt? But friend, what feels like abandonment is often alignment. God isn't punishing you, He's positioning you. He's aligning your path with His purpose, and sometimes that means walking through pain to find power. There's a story of Joseph, a man who knew what it meant to be led into a place that didn't make sense. He was chosen, favored, and gifted with dreams from God. But before those dreams came true, he was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and thrown into prison. From the outside, it looked like God had abandoned him. But from heaven's view, God was positioning him. Every setback was a step toward the palace. Every betrayal was a bridge to destiny. When Joseph finally stood in power, he looked back and said to the very ones who hurt him, "You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good." And that's how God works. He takes what others meant to break you and uses it to build you. He takes the tears, the heartache, the waiting, and turns them into testimonies. You may not see it now, but one day you'll understand that what you thought was the end was really the beginning of a greater purpose. God's plan isn't always comfortable, but it's always perfect. He's not leading you to destroy you. He's leading you to develop you. Think about a goldsmith refining gold. The gold must go through fire, not because it's worthless, but because it's valuable. The fire doesn't destroy it. It purifies it. In the same way, when God allows you to go through the fire, it's not because He's left you, it's because He's shaping you into something stronger, purer, and more beautiful. The pain you feel is not proof of His absence. It's proof of His craftsmanship. Even Jesus was led into the wilderness by the Spirit before His ministry began. It was there, in isolation and testing, that His strength was revealed. The wilderness wasn't punishment. It was preparation for victory. So if you're in a hard place, remember that God's presence doesn't always look like comfort. Sometimes it looks like strength in the struggle, peace in the chaos, and hope in the heartbreak. God sees the end from the beginning. He knows exactly what you need, when you need it, and how to use every trial for your good. What you think is a detour is often the very path that leads to destiny. He never brings you to a place to leave you there. He is not finished with you yet. Every trial, every delay, every disappointment is carrying divine purpose. Your delay is not denial. God's timing is preparation, not punishment. One of the hardest lessons in life is learning to wait when everything inside you is ready to move. We live in a world that moves fast. Fast food, fast results, instant everything. But God doesn't work on our schedule. He works on His. And His timing, though often mysterious, is always perfect. Many times we think the waiting means we've been forgotten, but in reality, the waiting is where God does his deepest work. It's in the delay that he shapes us, tests us, and prepares us for what's coming. There's a story in the Bible about a man named Abraham. God promised him that he would be the father of many nations, that his descendants would be as numerous as the stars in the sky. But years passed, 10, 20, 25, and still no child. Can you imagine how hard that was? To hold on to a promise that seemed impossible. Yet Abraham learned that the delay was not God's denial. The waiting wasn't wasted. God was building Abraham's faith so that when the miracle came, he would be ready to receive it. Sometimes we think God's silence means he's saying no, when in truth, he's saying, not yet. The doors that stay closed aren't closed forever. They're closed for your protection. The opportunities that slip through your fingers weren't meant for you right now, because you're still being molded into the person who can handle what you've been asking for. If God gave you everything you wanted the moment you asked, you wouldn't have the strength or wisdom to keep it. So he waits. Not because he's cruel, but because he's kind. Not because he's punishing you, but because he's preparing you. When a child plants a seed in the ground, he checks it every day, digging it up to see if it's growing. But the more he digs, the less chance the seed has to take root. Growth requires patience. The farmer doesn't panic when he doesn't see results immediately. He knows that the process is invisible before it becomes visible. The same is true for your life. Just because you can't see what God is doing doesn't mean he's not doing something. In the soil of waiting, roots are growing deeper, unseen by the eye, but essential for the fruit that's to come. Moses waited 40 years in the wilderness before leading his people to freedom. Joseph waited 13 years between his dream and his destiny. David was anointed king as a boy, but waited decades before sitting on the throne. Even Jesus waited 30 years before beginning his ministry. If the Son of God himself was not in a hurry, why should we be? The waiting seasons are not wasted seasons. They are classrooms where heaven teaches faith, endurance, and trust. You may feel right now like you're stuck between where you were and where you're supposed to be. You've prayed, you've worked, you've believed, and still nothing has changed. But remember, this delay is not denial. God has not forgotten your name or misplaced your promise. He's simply working on the details that you cannot yet see. Sometimes he's not just preparing the blessing for you, he's preparing you for the blessing. There are times when God holds you back to protect you from stepping into something too soon. A premature blessing can become a burden. Just like a fruit picked before it's ripe is sour and hard. Blessings received before we're ready can harm rather than help. God's delays are his mercy in disguise. He's not saying no. He's saying wait until the time is right, until your heart is steady, until your faith is strong enough to carry what he's about to give you. The greatest tragedies often come when people force what God has not yet released. They grow impatient, take matters into their own hands, and end up with heartbreak instead of breakthrough. But when you trust the process, when you let God move at his pace, you'll discover that his timing always brings peace. The door that opens in his time won't need to be forced. The opportunity that comes from his hand won't come with confusion. What's meant for you won't miss you, and what misses you was never meant to stay. So if you're in the waiting room of life right now, don't despise it. Don't mistake the silence for absence. God is preparing something bigger than you imagined. Every delay, every detour, every disappointment is serving a purpose you may not understand yet. He's not withholding good things from you. He's making sure when they arrive, you'll be ready to hold them. Faith is proven in the valley, not on the mountaintop. It's easy to believe when everything is going well, when the bills are paid, when your health is strong, when your relationships are whole, when your dreams seem within reach. But the true measure of faith isn't tested in comfort, it's tested in crisis. Faith isn't built in sunshine, it's forged in storms. When life knocks you down, when prayers seem unanswered, when the path ahead is dark and uncertain, that's where faith is refined. It's in those moments, when you can't see the way, that you discover what you truly believe about God. The mountaintop feels glorious, but the valley is where you grow. The mountaintop inspires you, but the valley transforms you. Everyone loves the view from the top, but few are willing to walk through the shadows that lead there. Yet, that's exactly where God does His deepest work. He doesn't just meet you on the mountain. He walks with you through the valley. When the tears fall and the nights are long, when doubt creeps in and fear tries to take hold, that's when heaven leans close. There's a reason the psalmist said, "Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me." Notice he didn't say, "I run through it," or "I skip over it." He said, "I walk through it." Because faith isn't about avoiding the valley. It's about trusting God in the valley. It's about putting one foot in front of the other when everything in you wants to stop. Think about Job, a man who had everything and lost it all. His health, his wealth, his family, his reputation. Everyone around him said, "Curse God and die." But Job refused. He said, "Though he slay me, yet will I trust him." That's faith in its purest form. Not the kind of faith that depends on blessings, but the kind that clings to God when there's nothing left to hold on to. Job discovered that faith doesn't remove the storm. It anchors you through it. Faith is not the absence of fear. It's the decision to believe God's word more than your feelings. It's looking at the mountain in front of you and saying, "It may be big, but my God is bigger." It's standing in the fire and believing that even if the flames rise higher, God is still good. Faith doesn't always change your situation immediately, but it changes your perspective. It shifts your eyes from what's happening around you to who is standing with you. In the valley, God strips away everything false and fragile until only what's real remains. When life is easy, we rely on comfortability and control. But when everything falls apart, when the answers don't come, and when the ground beneath us shakes, that's when we learn that God alone is enough. The valley isn't punishment, it's preparation. It's the place where weak faith becomes strong faith, where shallow belief becomes deep trust. There's a story about 3 men who were thrown into a fiery furnace because they refused to bow to an idol. The king thought their faith would crumble under pressure. But when he looked into the fire, he saw something miraculous. The men were not alone. There was a 4th figure walking with them. The fire didn't destroy them. It revealed the presence of God among them. That's what happens in your valley. The fire you fear may be the very place where you see God more clearly than ever before. Faith proven in the valley becomes unshakable on the mountaintop. Once you've seen God carry you through the dark, no one can convince you He's not real. When you've walked through pain and still felt His peace, you become dangerous to the enemy because your faith isn't borrowed, it's built. It's built on tears that turned into trust, on prayers whispered in the night, on promises that held you together when everything else fell apart. So when the valley feels endless and the road feels heavy, remember that faith isn't proven when you get what you prayed for. It's proven when you keep believing even when you don't. It's the kind of faith that says, I don't know how, I don't know when, but I know who. That's the faith that moves mountains, the faith that outlasts storms, the faith that stands tall when everything else falls. You're not buried. You're planted. Growth is coming. There's a powerful difference between being buried and being planted, though to the eye they look the same. In both cases, something is placed deep in the ground, covered in darkness, hidden from sight. But one is placed there to die, while the other is placed there to grow. Sometimes, life feels like you've been buried under the weight of disappointment, heartbreak, or failure. You can't see the light. You can't feel hope. And it seems as though everything has ended. But what if you're not buried at all?